I'm on, can you hear me? Lovely. Wonderful. I'm going to start with a quick survey, okay? Can you raise your hand for me if you've ever been at work and you thought, I just don't know what I'm doing? Yep, cool. That's why I got my notes with me, right? What about, have you ever been at work and you felt like you don't know why you're doing what you're doing? Have you ever felt that? Cool. Well, that's our segue into the chat today. I'm delighted to introduce you to the panel because we're going to explore purpose, which is all about the why. So firstly, I'd like you to meet Tara Haubert. Tara has over 15 years experience in HR. She's led and embedded major change in multiple organisations, and her home right now is head of people and culture at ASICS. Okay, so welcome, Tara. We've also got Brian Clohessy. Brian, you previously had 15 years experience as an architect, and then a little plot twist took you into a role at BVN as head of people and character. Right, lovely. Welcome, Brian. Cool. Okay, so to kick off the chat, let's start with you, Tara. Your purpose at ASICS is to create healthy, positive communities through encouraging movement. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So ASICS was founded in 1949 under the founding philosophy of sound mind, sound body, which is all about understanding the benefits of movement, physical movement on your mind and your body. So our purpose, therefore, is to encourage movement with communities as much as possible, because we know how important it is to have not only a healthy body, but also a healthy mind. And I think in a lot of ways, our founder was ahead of his time in coming up with this, or using this philosophy, because we know, particularly with the upheaval over the last couple of years, the benefit of movement and people reconnecting with movement, particularly for the mental health benefits, not just those physical benefits. So that's what brings our team to work every day, is to encourage as many people as possible, particularly at a grassroots level as well. How do we get young kids moving as early as possible? Get them into sporting teams, not just for the benefits of the movement, but also that social interaction as well, and to take something through from that grassroots level through to adult life.
It's wonderful. It's really great alignment with what we know of your work, and then to hear the purpose is so beautifully matched. And Brian, BVN has quite a new purpose. Can you tell us the story about that?
Yeah, so we are an architectural practice that's almost 100 years old, and we've only had a purpose in the last 5 years, so it's a step. But I guess for the majority of people who work directly with projects, there was a clear purpose for them every day, because we had a building or a space or a workplace that we were creating. So it was a very tangible thing that you knew. You got a brief, we're working on that. That's clearly my purpose and what we're doing for. And our projects can go for years, so it's not like it's a 6-month thing. It could be 4 or 5 years. I think we just finished Randwick Hospital, so that was 7 years for some of the people who were longest on that team. So they clearly had a purpose, and that was getting them up every day and going to work. But what we realized is that for the people who partner with the business, like the admin team or the brand and comms, and for everyone else, that isn't as tangible. And for every day, sometimes projects can be quite challenging. And even we're seeing now that people, it's not enough to just do good buildings. They want to make sure that they're aligned with us in what our purpose is or what our values are. So they're really keen to understand what does that look like. So a number of years ago, we came up with our purpose, which is collective creativity to design a better future. And I think what was really good at the time is we didn't just say, here it is, put it on a poster and put it on the wall. We actually got some external facilitators to come in and work with everybody in the practice to go, well, what does this mean for you? And we broke down the words of it. And what came out really strongly was that a better future is around sustainability and regeneration for us. Not in actually what we do every day, but also in our buildings. Because as an industry, we are responsible for a lot of embodied carbon. So it's something that our people were very passionate about. And then our co-CEOs realized that okay, that's good to have a purpose, but what's the actual vision and strategy that goes with that? So then we kept working on it and understood, well, what does that mean on a day-to-day basis? And we came up with smarter, more creative, and better for the planet. So we were very deliberate in saying, we hear you on sustainability, and it is going to be an important driver for us as we go forward.
Wonderful. That point about put it on a poster and put it on the wall and then the purpose is kind of done. Tara, what does it look like at ASICS when the culture is really embedded? Like, what are some insights on how that looks at what it looks like at ASICS when it's really ingrained?
Yeah, sure. So I think, like you said, you know, it isn't about slapping it up on the wall or having a glossy brochure that talks about perks and your EVP, and they're all great things to have, and you know, great resources to develop. But it needs to be authentic, and it needs to be lived and breathed every day. So you know, it comes down to what are the behaviours that we're trying to achieve and trying to foster amongst the team, because those behaviours then translate into what you can see and feel in terms of culture. And if it is just, you know, a series of words on a wall like values, or if it doesn't make sense for what we're trying to achieve, then you won't get that traction. It won't become authentic. It won't become ingrained behaviour. It'll become the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian, how is your purpose at BVN influencing the employee experience?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things we realised was you can't tip it into the practice and say, we've given you a purpose, you need to start just translate it into your everyday. So there's a couple of things the purpose gave, which I think has been hugely advantageous, is as a leadership group, we now have something to test everything that we're doing. So if we're prioritising something, we can go, is this building on the purpose? Is it landing the purpose? Is it helping doing it? And what became evident is every time we have a new initiative or we're talking about something to our people, you need to tie it back to the purpose. You need to tie it to the vision and strategy so they understand, that's why you're doing this. And in doing that, then in a way, we're starting to role model ways in which others can say, well, what I'm doing is actually doing that as well. So we found that you have to be really clear and you have to coach your leadership team to be able to do that on a regular basis. But then we give airtime and we encourage teams to talk about and storytell at morning teas and forums about how little things that they're doing is translating in helping us, if you like, in how we deliver on the purpose every day. And the thing you have to do there is, and it starts small, is it can be the tiniest thing. We had someone in, so we, in essence, I was telling Tara and Ali earlier, as architects, we're like the people who create the instructions in your Lego set. That's what we do. We have to create the drawings for the builders to do what they're doing. And we do it in a piece of software it's called BIM. And what this person did is they wrote a script to just shave time and to cut out repetitive tasks so it would automate it. And we were like, that's amazing, because that's about eliminating waste in everything we do. So it gives them more time to do other things and more creative things. So we got her, we got Jenny to stand up in front of everybody and tell the story. And then what you're doing is you have to keep doing that so that others see that it's the small things are actually all working towards that. It doesn't have to be the biggest gesture and the thing that it's doing. It's keep telling stories and celebrate the little things. And that encourages others to think in that way too.
I love that point about getting the employees to tell the story too. And I think it sort of speaks to the fact that the purpose is not just top down, it comes from grassroots as well. I'll put this to both of you. What are some ways that you feel you can empower people in the organisation to use the purpose, to take charge and do things themselves with it?
Sure. I'll go first.
Yep.
So I think, you know, to some of our previous points, I think what the purpose helps to do is to give permission, and you're giving that permission by defining the parameters and defining the box almost that the team need to work within. So, you know, it's easy to do what's expected of you when you know what's expected of you, but if you don't have a clear purpose and vision and strategy that goes behind it, then you can't expect the team to be able to deliver on that because you haven't communicated that. So I think it becomes that communication platform to define that box, define those parameters, and then you're giving the teams permission to perform within that. But to Brian's point, I think the celebrating success is how you then go about getting that sustainable change. So when you see the right behaviours, when you hear the right phrases, when you hear the right dialogue, when you've got the consistent language within the business, it's about celebrating that and hearing that over and over again. And we know that success breeds success. If you reward what you want to see, then you're going to see more of it.
Absolutely.
I think building on that, so the other thing is that if you have a vision and strategy as a one-liner, you need to break it down and make it more tangible to people too. So there's elements in our vision strategy where there's a whole component around regen, and which is all about the sustainable aspect. And what we realize is you also then, if that's going to be a focus for you, sometimes you have to equip your people with new competencies and skills to be able to deliver on that. And we decided that we needed, just recently we did what we call Regen Week, which is a whole week around that where we took the leadership away for 2 days off-site to equip them with the skills about how you do it, because even leaders will go, it's too hard and they have all these excuses and this is why we can't do it. And our people are clearly telling us they want to be able to do this. So you have to equip the leaders to do it. And then we were using global experts in this where we had them in for the week. Then we did talks to our people and we said, this is how you start to translate it in your day-to-day. So you help them about what it might look like in their day-to-day roles. And then a further step is we got those global experts to sit in, and now they're sitting in with our teams once a week in their actual projects to see, well, where are the opportunities for you, and here's how you could live it in your project. So because there's so many aspects that you can do. And it might be just, again, this small bit. Okay, well, maybe it's on water saving, or maybe it's in embodied carbon, or whatever this aspect. Here are the skills, and here's how you're going to do it. So I think it's in walking the talk, you have to educate, support, and show people how to do it. You can't, again, just say, off you go.
Yeah. I saw a poster walking through the hotel foyer this morning that said, wine with purpose. And I thought, yep, I can think of a few purposes for that wine. But also, it made me think that occasionally there's a tokenism to purpose. What does it look like if you're getting purpose wrong?
I think to the previous point about authenticity is the key here. So where it goes wrong is when it is plastered on a wall, or it's presented once, or it's trained once, but it's not genuine and authentic, or the change process could be what fails in that too, in that it's not embedded within the business, it's not believed by the team, it's not lived and breathed by the team. I think that's when it can go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to the step where we sat down with our people and said, this is what our core purpose is, let's break it down, what does it mean to your language, really made them rethink it, because otherwise it can be a slogan and go, ugh, and it's a bit of a throwaway. But when you're forced to think about it and express the words of which, how this looks for me. And I think the other thing that as leaders we're afraid to do is we're afraid to be repetitive. They go, I can't keep getting up there saying, I need to be fresh. And people need to hear things at least 7 times before it starts to land. So it's, I guess when it's wrong is there isn't an alignment with people as you attract new talent, or that's keeping your talent there. And I think this ability that you've got to be able to talk about this every day, and you got to believe it. You have to genuinely believe it. And I think in terms of climate change and everything for us, that's a very real issue. So that's a thing that our people can really latch onto and go and say that, well, we can actually make a difference. And I think people want to make a difference. And if you think about then the impact of a good purpose and vision and strategy is it helps people be anchored and belong in the business, because they need to have a sense of place and purpose. They need to know why they're coming to work every day and how that is contributing to the bigger picture of what you do. So if they can't articulate it in their language to their friends at the weekend over a barbecue or out at dinner, or if somebody asks, what do you do, or what's ASICS about, or what's BVN about, then I think then we haven't landed it. If they can't talk to it themselves and without having to look it up, then I think that's when maybe you've got issues.
Yeah, I think that barbecue conversation is a great litmus test, you know, for people to be able to freely explain how they contribute to something. I think is, yeah, like I said, a really great test of it. You know, with our team in particular, sport is ingrained in each of our team in some way, shape or form. We've got, you know, amateurs right through to professional athletes and runners, and it might be running, or it might be rock climbing, or it might be yoga, or it's something different. But it brings our team together like sharing a meal. You know, food brings people together. Sport brings the team at ASICS together, because, you know, that's what we are all about, is getting as many people involved in sport and movement as possible.
It's wonderful. Well, we're almost out of time today, so I might just pass it back to you both if you've got any final thoughts before we leave these lovely people for the rest of the festival.
Yeah, I just think if you're going to have a purpose, yeah, really believe in it, but work at embedding it. It's not going to happen itself. It's you have to live it every day, and that's top down, bottom up. It's got to, yeah, talk about it all the time.
Repetition is key.
Wonderful. Brian, Tara, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you all for being here. Okay, we'll pass you back to Yemi. Enjoy the day.